the students can learn from and interact with the older residents in the community there. And we would be nowhere without passionate students like you guys. Our students are committed to making the world a better place. They're passionate about our community service projects, and we really are committed to creating global citizens who enjoy doing good for others around the world.
Yep. And actually, one really interesting thing about the type of students that we have on our programs is not only are they come from around the country, we always have a lot of questions, are they specifically from one state or one coast? We have had students from every state, I think, but one. I think we're still waiting for our first student from South Dakota. Hopefully you're on this presentation tonight. But we have students from all over the country, and we're almost 20% international students at this point. So in 2014, we had students from 42 different countries join us on our programs, which means your student is traveling abroad, they're in a new environment, they're learning a new culture, right alongside students from around the world. We've had students from Venezuela and Spain and from all over Asia and even Syria. It's a really cool interaction to see these students that are going through the same thing, but they're from very different walks of life.
So as Jesse mentioned before, about 70 to 75% of our programs involve some type of community service. And we do have programs that have, 8 hours of community service all the way up to 70 hours of community service within one program. And it's one of the main focuses. We're really passionate about our community service projects, and we want to provide a variety of different community service projects, not only so our students can experience different types of work and volunteer work and activities, but also because we want to provide what these communities really need at the time that our students are there. So for example, for an educational project in the South Pacific, we do English, art, and computer tutoring and teaching in villages in Fiji. For social development, we play basketball with special needs students in Australia, as well as camp with Indigenous Australians. For infrastructure, we built a school in the Sivikoso village, and we rebuild houses in Fiji. For health, we provide healthy, well-balanced meals to those in need through our meal program, where students learn how to cook local food in Fiji and deliver it to the people most needy in the villages. For environmental projects, we do lots of rubbish and recycling cleanups from all different areas in Australia, including beaches and wetlands. And for animal community service program examples, we have our volunteering at Australia Zoo and minke whale conservation. So why the South Pacific? This is my favorite part of the entire presentation because the South Pacific is my favorite part of the world. And when you travel to the South Pacific with Rustic Pathways, you're getting our 32 years of history and experience in this region. We started Rustic Pathways in Australia 32 years ago, the year I was born, 1983, leading four-wheel drive excursions across the Northern Territory, stopping along the way to help Indigenous communities in need. So Rustic Pathways has always had that mix of community service and adventure since the start of our organization 32 years ago. Fiji is the second country in which we operated service and adventure programs. So we're experts in the South Pacific region, and students who join us definitely experience the authentic cultural immersion in the local communities with which we've built these long-standing, meaningful relationships over the past decades. The second reason why the South Pacific is an amazing destination is because our action-packed programs here offer a mix of community service and adventure. Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji is the adventure area of the whole world. Our groups work hard, but they also play hard, and there is always an adventure around the corner to reward students for their efforts during community service projects. Some examples of the adventure on our Australian, Fiji, and New Zealand programs include diving, snorkeling, hiking, swimming, kayaking, sailing, surfing, cable skiing, skydiving, bungee jumping, and rafting, and that's just to name a few. So definitely awesome area of the world to go to.
Awesome. Okay, so we just ran a quick poll, and it looks like you guys are pretty smart. Maybe that was too easy. Emily, what are echidnas, bilbies, and wombats?
So echidnas are one of the only two egg-laying mammals. The other one is the duck-billed platypus. Both are native animals to Australia. Bilbies are a type of bandicoot. They're extremely rare. They look like a bunny crossed with a rat. A bandicoot is, in the rodent family. It's one of the, native rodents that you can find, roaming around your campsites in Australia. And a wombat is a marsupial, which means it has a pouch, just like wallabies, Tasmanian devils, kangaroos, and koalas. It has a backwards facing pouch, and it looks like sort of a giant guinea pig type animal. So
Great.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about Australia, and I'm going to go into a few different details of each program. Not a detailed itinerary by any means, but definitely want to give you guys a background of how programs differ from each other and what to expect on your program if you are already signed up. So I'm going to start with the Awesome Aussie Service Adventure. This is our most popular program in Australia, and it really does mix community service and adventure really well. This is one of the programs, one of three programs that visits Australia Zoo, my favorite place in the entire country. You also get a couple of surf lessons from surf experts, and you get to camp on the world's second largest sand island, which is one of my favorite places as well. This program grants students 30 service hours. A couple of community service projects students work on this program are they play basketball with special needs students, lend a hand at a local elementary school, visit the patients of a children's hospital, and clean rubbish and recycling from beaches and wetlands, and they also do humpback whale monitoring on a boat. And accommodation for this program, the first week they spend in our Glasshouse Mountain Base House, which is a 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom house on 50 acres of rainforest where kangaroos and wallabies like to graze on our front lawn. So that's a pretty cool place. I've seen lots of koalas and different animals in the area up there. Week 2 is spent at the Sunshine Coast in a beach house. So similar arrangement, big house, lots of rooms, bunk beds, but just a quick stroll to the beach and near all the surf lessons.
Emily, do you want to answer how many kangaroos there are in Australia? I don't even know the answer to this question.
There are 50 to 60 million kangaroos in Australia, and that's actually more than twice the amount of people that there are. So, and all right, I'll hop over to Golden Sands and Helping Hands. This is the 1-week version of our Awesome Aussie Service Adventure. So students joining us for Golden Sands and Helping Hands will be with the same group that's on the Awesome Aussie Service Adventure during their first week. The first week of each program is identical. So on the Golden Sands and Helping Hands program, they visit Australia Zoo, they camp at an Outback themed bush camp, and they hike one of the Glasshouse Mountains. They have 15 community service hours. They spend time visiting and volunteering at a local school, children's hospital, and going to the world's 4th largest sand island and participating in a beach cleanup. The accommodation is at our previously mentioned Glasshouse Mountain Base House. And this program connects really well with any other program in Australia. Since it's only a short amount of time, it's one of our 1-week programs. So a lot of students will attach this to another program in a different area, such as the Outback Aboriginal Service Expedition or our 7 Wonders of Australia program.
Yeah, that's a great point, Emily. That's a question we get a lot about combining trips. Some people are curious to know why we offer 1 week trips when the students have to fly so far away. And most students won't fly clear across the world for 1 week. The trips are actually specifically designed to interconnect really well with the other trips. So if students are interested in a little bit of service and a little bit of adventure, we do this specifically so students can actually design their own itineraries and they can travel for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, stringing multiple trips together. And all programs within a given region, within a given country, will typically begin and end in the same city. Or for Australia, they begin and end in the same city. For Fiji, they begin and end in the same city. And within Fiji and Australia, trips actually combine really well, very easily. And we have the airfare there available on the website.
Thanks, Jesse.
Mhm.
So our new program this year that I'll talk about with you guys is our minke whale research expedition. This is definitely a once in a lifetime thing. Opportunities like this don't exist in many places around the world. It's a perfect program for students interested in marine biology or for students who just love the ocean and working with animals. The program includes 12 dives on the Great Barrier Reef and a trip to Lizard Island for swimming and spending time at the white sand beaches there, and also swimming with whales while you're on the program. So all of the dives on the Great Barrier Reef are part of the program, but the students snorkel with the minke whales and swim with them. The 20 service hours on this program are for their conservation efforts with the whales. The accommodation is a dive boat for 3 nights and hostels for the other nights. All of the hostels in the South Pacific are really nice, and they're basically like 3-star hotels, but they're specifically designed for world travelers to make it more affordable for them to travel, and filled with young people. So the 4th trip in Australia is 7 Wonders of Australia. This program is the perfect trip for people who really want to see the must-see places of the country, those iconic places such as the Great Barrier Reef, the Daintree Rainforest, which is the oldest rainforest in the world. It's the only program that visits Sydney. It's the only program that visits Ayers Rock, also known as Uluru, which is the sacred Aboriginal spot of the entire country. There's 15 hours of service rewarded for turtle rehabilitation and volunteering at a wildlife park. And the accommodation, it's a traveling program which includes trips all over. So they're staying at hotels, hostels, and they have 1 night of camping in the Outback. Speaking of the Outback, we have our Outback Aboriginal Service Expedition. This program is a rare opportunity for students to engage with Indigenous Australian communities, often resistant to outsiders. So there's not a lot of places in Australia where you can just sort of enter an Indigenous Aboriginal community and interact with them. They're pretty closed off, similar to some Native American reservations in the U.S. You can't just sort of go and they're pretty reserved a lot of the time. We have amazing relationships with these communities, and our students get to, see the real deal Australia, seldom visited by tourists, go to the Outback, camp with Indigenous Australian youth, go to hot springs, gorges, see the spectacular scenery of this, seldomly seen area of Australia. They have 40 service hours in this 2-week program, so lots of community service projects in the Aboriginal communities. They do volunteer work at a remote wildlife rehabilitation station, and they camp for 10 nights of this program and stay at hostels for the rest. So very rustic accommodation and lots of camping.
Yeah, I like to describe this as more of a quintessential
My favorite
Australia
program.
trip. Sorry, Em, to interject there, but it just gives you the kind of the outback feel. They definitely get some interaction with the Aboriginal community there, and it's really cool, off the beaten path type trip.
Absolutely. And my personal favorite, Uaru and Australia Zoo. I started this program in 2010, so it's definitely close to my heart. I think I had a countdown going at one point. I had been to the zoo 92 times in the past 4 years. The students absolutely love it. We've had students come back 3 years in a row to do the program again. So if any of you are on this program, give yourself a pat on the back. It's fantastic. We're the only international group allowed to volunteer at Australia Zoo. This is in the town Steve Irwin grew up in. It's his zoo. His wife and kids now live there, run it, own the zoo. So the students have lots of different activities that they get to do. Volunteer work, shadowing a zookeeper, seeing environmental work being done by the nonprofits that the zoo is connected to, learn about conservation efforts being done by wildlife warriors, training and breeding programs, and much, much more. They also get behind the scenes and get to participate in animal encounters, which they have 3 to 4 different animals they get to interact with as a group for no additional charge. They also get to spend a day at Tangalooma Island Resort, so fun in the sun for a day on the world's 3rd largest sand island. And 35 hours of service are awarded for their volunteer work while at the zoo. And they also stay at our Glasshouse Mountain Base House. All right, and on to Fiji. So I've spent about 7 months in Fiji. It's the most welcoming, friendly destination I've ever been to. The people there are just welcome you into their home. They will go out of their way, they're so interested in just people and life, and they're just filled with, life and energy, and they love their islands, and they want to teach you all about it. So our students really get that cultural immersion. They get to try the food, learn a little bit of the language. They learn about the traditions and the religions and the culture and all about the lifestyle of the locals that live there. Our Big Fiji Explorer program is focused on adventure with a little bit of community service added in. The highlights on this program include whitewater rafting, sailing, and zip lining. We have 8 hours of service that we wanted to give the students an option to do some community service on, most of our programs. So what they might do is repair village homes, build kitchens, engage in a sports day, or plant mangroves. And the accommodation is in bunk beds at the hostels and Eco Lodge. They're in safari tents, which are cabin-like structures with canvas walls, and they also have cots in Somo Village in the islands, and then in the highlands, when they camp in tents, they'll have mattresses on the floor, and that's in Sasa. So Escape to the Fiji Islands, we have a few trips that are 1-week and 2-week options of the same itinerary. So Escape to the Fiji Islands essentially is the first week of our Big Fiji Explorer program. It's just the shortened version of it. So it's the 1-week option, and it's adventure focused with a taste of community service, much the same. The highlights include a waterfall hike, kayaking, and a trip to the mud pools and hot springs. And this portion visits the Eco Lodge, the safari tents in Somo, and the camping and tents in Sasa, since it's the first week of the Big Fiji Explorer program. That's the same for the accommodation.
Hey, Emily.
And Diver's Dream. This is yep.
We actually have, we've had a number of questions about what to wear in Fiji. I know this is a little bit more conservative culture as opposed to Australia. Can you touch base on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So while students are at the beach, at a resort, at the Eco Lodge, any place that's not a village, they can wear whatever they want. When students are in a village is the only time when shoulders and knees are covered. So we provide all students traveling to the Fiji Islands with a sulu, which is much like a sarong, and it'll say Rustic Pathways Fiji on it, and students, if they came unprepared, they can put that over whatever they're wearing. It just goes, over shorts, over pants, anything, and that's the traditional garb that they have in the village. So, students always have to wear a sulu in the village at certain times during a ceremony while meeting the chief or spokesman. So we'll definitely provide students with that. But otherwise, I would just make sure to pack longer shorts, just above the knee is totally fine, and definitely some t-shirts to have those shoulders covered.
Great, thanks, Em. And actually, can you speak to dietary issues as well for both Fiji and Australia? I know we have students every year that travel with us that are vegetarian and vegan, gluten-free. And for this part of the world, is it easy to accommodate those?
Definitely, yeah. Gluten-free is super easy in both areas. Australia has an entire aisle in the grocery store devoted to gluten-free food, which is awesome. I've never seen any variety like that anywhere else. So vegetarian and vegan also very easy in Australia. A lot of the menus will even have it listed as what those options are separate on the menu. So probably the easiest country in all 18 countries we run programs in to accommodate for that. Fiji is definitely a rice-based sort of meal, so that's really easy for gluten-free diets as well. And also there's tons of fresh fruit. There's watermelon, pineapple, apples, bananas, star fruit in some seasons, mango in some seasons. So definitely lots of fruit and vegetables around. And they eat a traditional Fijian food involves, starchy root vegetables, rice, fish, fruits and veggies, and then the Indian food, lots of different curries. And a lot of the Indian population in Fiji is vegetarian, so also really easy to accommodate there.
Awesome. And how is the weather?
Fantastic. So although it's in quotation marks winter in Australia, a lot of the time it can get up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, and 50 to 60 at night. In the Outback, it can get a lot hotter than that. It just cools down due to lack of cloud cover in the evenings. So just a more dramatic temperature range in the Outback. So people on the Seven Wonders and Outback Aboriginal Service Expedition programs should just pack a little bit more variety for hot and cold weather. But other than that, I would pack for essentially a spring weather for other parts of Australia, and for Fiji, summer clothes only. It'll be very hot in Fiji during the summer. But it's also the dry season, so we don't expect lots of rain. It might rain sometimes, but we have had very good luck with it not, downpouring while our programs run in Fiji, as the rainy season is from October to May, so we completely missed that season.
Great. I know there's been some questions about packing list. Packing list should be up for most programs. I know there are a few programs that country directors were tweaking them a little bit. So if you don't see your packing list, your personal travel advisor, which we'll touch base on in a little bit later in the presentation, can get you information on the packing list, or it should be up any day. If you don't see it now, it will be up in the next few days, but most of them should already be available on the website. Thanks, Em.
No problem. Yeah, keep those questions coming, and I'll just keep going through. But yeah, let me know if anything comes up, and I'm happy to answer those for you. The Fiji Divers Dream program is an amazing opportunity for students to get their PADI open water certification. Students can also join this if they're already certified. They go on 8 dives during the program. And this program stays at the Eco Lodge. So all of our Intro to Community Service, Sun, Sand, and Service, and Fiji Divers Dream programs all stay at the Eco Lodge. So all of those students share the evenings together doing different activities and getting to know each other, which is really cool. So you get that larger group to eat all your dinners with and play some soccer games, have the Fijians come and do different dances, have Indian night. There's an infinity edge pool, so lots of different opportunities to interact as a larger group in the evenings. And speaking of Intro to Community Service, so this is a great program. This is one of our 9-day programs. It's definitely focused on community service. So we provide a variety of community service projects on our Intro to Community Service programs throughout the world. We have one in Fiji, Costa Rica, and Thailand. So this is pretty much a highlight of all the different projects we do, including building projects, the meal program, educational projects, environmental projects, and we definitely focus on what the community needs at the time that our program is there. And accommodation again at the Eco Lodge, and it's really an authentic cultural immersion as well. Highlands and Islands Service Immersion. So this is a great place to go if you want to add on to with the Intro to Community Service program or the Sun, Sand, and Service program. This program isn't going to overlap with any of our Eco Lodge activities. It goes to up in the highlands in the mountains in the middle of Viti Levu, which means Big Fiji, the main Fijian island. And it also goes to the Asawa Island group, which is the farthest main island group off the coast of Fiji. And it's pristine white sand beaches and palm trees, but it also has very untouched, traditional, authentic Fijian villages. So they get to experience those two distinct parts of the Fiji Islands with a focus on community service and cultural immersion. They live like a local villager during this program, and they get to experience the natural beauty of both Fiji's mountains and beaches. They earn 45 service hours, and in the past we've built a classroom for the village school, and we've tutored students as well as done farming activities for those service hours. The accommodation split up from 6 nights in Nisivikoso homestays to 2 nights in the Highlands Farm Base, 2 nights in the Eco Lodge, and 2 nights in Kuata Island. Another one of our programs that visits this beautiful Yasawa Island group is our Marine Service and Adventure program. This is another one of our programs that we really recommend for students interested in marine biology and for students who love snorkeling, marine life, and island culture. So they swim with manta rays on this program, identify tropical fish and coral species, and enjoy island life. There's 30 service hours earned on the trip, and they do a lot of different things in and around the coral reef systems and in the ocean, including coral cleanups, fish counts, reef mapping, crown of thorns sea star removal, and they're actually extending a marine preservation area in the Asawa Island group, so that's an amazing feat that our students are involved with, and they also plant mangroves. And accommodation on this program is bunk beds at our Eco Lodge. They stay in Pacific Harbor and Takalana and Yasawa Resort. They all have dorm-style accommodations, bunk beds for students per room in all of those places. And they also spend a couple of nights in the safari tents with cots at Somo Somo Village.
Emily, for the programs that offer homestays, can you touch base on a little bit on how those work and who the families are?
Yeah, definitely. So back when we were talking about our local staff members, we hire local staff members in all of our local places to teach our students about the culture and food and all of the traditions of those places. So these staff members that have been working with us for years, a lot of the time we're going to their villages where they're actually from. So the students are really seeing where these staff members are from, meeting their families, meeting their aunties, meeting their uncles. And the families that our students do homestays with in Fiji are, you know, the aunties and uncles of our staff members, and we've been in these communities for, more than 25 years in a lot of instances. So we've known these families, very, very well. Students are never alone in a homestay. They're always with at least one other, if not two other students.
Great, thanks, Em.
No problem. So switching gears over to our only 3-week program in the South Pacific, Pacific Adrenaline. This program combines our Big Fiji Explorer program with a 1-week program in New Zealand. So essentially it's the exact same itinerary as Big Fiji Explorer plus 1 week in New Zealand. It's the only program in all of Rustic Pathways that visits New Zealand, the country I'm currently in right now. It's talking to you from Auckland. It's an action-packed, adrenaline-pumping, best adventure program that we have. Specifically, New Zealand is the adventure capital of the world. They have, things that people have never even heard of as adventure activities. Blackwater rafting, zorbing, simulated skydiving, whitewater rafting, hiking, sailing, island hopping, kayaking, snorkeling, ziplining, and much more. There's just an endless array of things that our students have packed into each and every day of this program. It's an amazing part of the world, and the students we're doing all of the must-see activities and places in both countries. So I definitely highly recommend this program. There's no community service on this program, I just want to point out. It's strictly an adventure program. It can be combined with any other program in Australia or in Fiji if you'd like to add service to it. And the accommodation on this program includes hostels, the Eco Lodge, safari tents in Somo, and camping in Sasa in Fiji. And in New Zealand, they're all in hostels, but very nice hostels.
Actually, that's a really good point to talk a little bit more about our base houses. As I said before, and Emily has said, we have our own properties in several countries around the world. And when we say base houses, it means one of two things. Either we own the property and it's the sole use of Rustic Pathways throughout the year, or we rent the property, and again, it's the sole use of Rustic Pathways students during that part of the year. Emily, since you've spent so much time there, can you talk a little bit more about our base houses, especially in the Glasshouse Mountains?
Yep, absolutely. So our Glasshouse Mountain base house is a 6-bedroom house on a 50-acre property on one of the Glasshouse Mountains. So the Glasshouse Mountains are about an hour north of Brisbane, and they were named by Captain Cook because they resembled the glass houses that they made glass in England. And they're actually the cores of ancient volcanoes. So it's an amazing area. We have the view of 3 of the mountains from our front yard, and often we have wallabies and kangaroos there as well. There's a giant living area and kitchen as soon as you walk into the front door, as well as a very big front yard. And there's boys and boys rooms, girls and girls rooms, and the rooms are bunk beds with their own bathroom. The house is also about 15 minutes away from Australia Zoo. And our Eco Lodge in Fiji, I was actually lucky enough to be there, over the years as it was being built. So brand new buildings. There's one main lodge that was a pre-existing lodge. That's the main one you'll see in the pictures with the green roof with the brown paint in front of the Infinity Edge pool. And then all of the other white houses are called bures. So bure is the Fijian word for house. Each group of 6 students gets their own bure. So each bure has 3 bunk beds as well as its own bathroom and shower. So students pick their own roommates and for all of our programs and sleep in their own bure attached to our main lodge. And then we have, a common area with a flat screen TV in both houses in Australia and Fiji, couches, and common areas for students to hang out together. As well as at the Eco Lodge, there's a soccer field and a volleyball net. And you can have views to the ocean, but you just can't walk to the actual beach because you'd have to pass through some rough terrain to get there. But the beach is definitely just a quick drive away.
Is the weather in New Zealand pretty similar to what you described in Fiji and Australia?
The weather in New Zealand, since you're on the North Island, is very similar to what you experience in Australia. If anything, it would be slightly cooler. So just a couple degrees, like a spring, maybe 70 degrees as a high rather than 80 degrees as a high.
Sounds beautiful.
And it does rain more in New Zealand.
All right, great. Thanks, Em.
So just have a couple of programs left to describe to you guys. Return to Nisivikoso. Before I talk about this program specifically, I just want to talk about Nisivikoso in general. So Nisivikoso is the village we've been in the longest in the entire country of Fiji. It's the one place we branched out to right after Australia as a destination for Rustic Pathways programs 32 years ago. We've been in this program for over 25. We've been in this village for over 25 years. We have very meaningful, long-standing ties with all of the people in this village. A lot of our full-time Fijian staff are from Nisivikoso. The people in Nisivikoso did not have a school, and the students would go to boarding school, 4 kilometers away. So what we did is we built a school in Nisivikoso. We're still adding classrooms onto the school. We actually had the Prime Minister of Fiji ride his horse up to view our school. So that's a pretty amazing thing. It's something we're really proud of, and it's something that our Rustic Pathways Foundation helped to fund. So we have a nonprofit branch that's part of Rustic Pathways called the Rustic Pathways Foundation. We use that for our bigger projects, such as the children's home we built in Thailand and this school that we built in Nisivikoso. So we've had some students that, just fell in love with the place and they've wanted to come back and do more and give more. So we have a program called Return to Nisivikoso where previous Highlands students can come back and, continue to build and develop these projects in this community, in particular to, build more classrooms onto that school. So the highlights of this program include revisiting the homestays that these former students went to and deepening their ties within the community. They also celebrate Nisivikoso Day, which is a day filled with rugby and netball tournaments, which are very huge in this part of the world. So in Fiji, in New Zealand, and in Australia, rugby and netball rather than football and basketball like we tend to watch in America. And we have 12 service hours on this program. It's a 9-day program, and the accommodation is those homestays in the Pacific Coast. So.
Yep, I just want to point out that we are currently this year running only
Sun, Sand, and International Service is the
Oh, I think there's a little bit of a lag. Sorry, Em. There are only 2 alumni-only programs. This program that Emily mentioned, Return to Nisivikoso, and the Ultimate Africa trip in Southern and Eastern Africa. So keep an eye out for those if you're already an alumni or if this is your first time traveling with us. We have some awesome programs we offer each year for alumni only, and we have an alumni program where students can receive up to 50% off of programs when they register for the following year in the fall. So if you've registered this year, August and September for 2016, you can receive a significant discount. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these other programs.
Thanks, Jessie. So Sun, Sand, and Service, the last program we have on offer in Fiji that I'll talk to you guys about. And thanks so much for tuning in to listen to all this information. So this program, much like our other programs that have 1 and 2 week options, this is the 2 week option for Intro to Community Service program. So again, it's a great mix of service and adventure, with that focus being the meaningful service projects. The highlights of this program are visiting Singatoka Sand Dune National Park, visits to the mud pools and hot springs, visiting Natandola Beach right in front of the Intercontinental Resort, and I like to highlight all of the service projects that they do. So not only do the students get to, teach, build, paint, cook, clean, plant a garden, play sports at local schools, and play games. They're, trying different things, they're learning different things, they're teaching different things, they're getting tons of different experiences that they might not have had before, and they might really learn about, wow, I've never hammered a nail before, I'm really good at this, or, wow, I really liked working with kids, I might, see what else I can do in the future. So I feel like that variety of service is one of the major standout points about Sun, Sand, and Service, and with our Intro to Community Service programs.
Emily, how many students typically sign up for this program?
On each session of Sun, Sand, and Service, we can get up to 40 students with Intro and Sun, Sand, and International Service combined. That being said, they get split into groups of 8 to 10, with 2 staff being staff members, and they'll go on different programs throughout the day. So one day you might cook a Fijian meal and deliver it to those in need, and then in the afternoon go to the mud pools and hot springs. And one of the other groups could be teaching English and art, and then the next day they'll do what you did. So all the different groups of 8 to 10 will go off and do their community service and adventure activities for the day, and then they'll reconvene at the base house at night for dinner and evening activities.
Great. Thanks. And we actually have quite a few questions about connecting before the trip starts. We get this question a lot. Just to address it to everyone, we have a privacy policy that we do not send the names and information out beforehand. Some people do not like that, but we do have a lot of students that would like to connect beforehand. So we've got a couple options for you. You're more than welcome to send your information into your personal travel advisor, and they can then send your contact information out to the students in your trip, and whoever wants to connect beforehand can do so. Alternatively, we actually have a lot of students that start comment groups and pages on Facebook, on our Facebook page. And so if you go there now, you'll see lots of students that say like, hey, I'm participating in Sun, Sand, and Service July 7th, who else? And students just kind of hop on and start introducing themselves and meet each other that way. So I take a look at Facebook, scroll through the comments there, and perhaps there's already been one started for your trip and your session.
Great. I just want to mention quickly that Sun, Sand, and International Service is again at our Eco Lodge base house, and that's the accommodation for that program. All right, so since we have mostly students signed up already, and those of you who are on here that are going to sign up, you're all going to have a story of, your favorite part of your program, and, we definitely want you to share that with us when you return as an alumni. So definitely keep in touch with us. Let us know how amazing your program was. Just wanted to share a little story. I spent the most time on our Uaru and Australia Zoo program, developing the program and running it for multiple years. And one of my students wrote after she had, participated in the program 3 times, 2 years in a row. She had such an amazing experience volunteering at Australia Zoo that she went on to intern at an aquarium in Vancouver. And it really helped her figure out which career path she wanted to take later on in life. So I thought that was really cool how, a Rustic Pathways program can really expand students' knowledge of which career paths are available to them and really help them make decisions like that. It also definitely increases students' confidence and leadership abilities, which I saw in that student over the 2 years that she participated in our programs. And it really, across the board, deepens students' awareness for other cultures and motivates them to make a difference.
Awesome. And just to take a quick note, previously, you answered the question about how many students sign up for Sun, Sand, and Service. I did want to note that that's not our average. Any program that runs out of our base house tends to have a higher number of students, especially if they're going to be broken up into smaller groups working on various projects. Most of our programs company-wide actually average between 12 and 15 students, maxing out around 18. But again, anything that runs out of our base house, because it's more in controlled environment, tends to have a few more students and be a little bit more popular, as it's more of an introductory program typically. But all programs will have a maximum number of students. And do you actually have any idea of the different types of animals that they will find in Fiji? I know we talk a lot about kangaroos and wombats and wallabies, and I don't know how many of those you'll see in Fiji.
I believe that the only indigenous mammals in Fiji are bats. So,
So not quite the
animals in Fiji. A lot of people own ducks, goats, chickens, and dogs and cats, but not wild animals, just sort of domesticated animals. The real animals that you're going to come across in Fiji are the eels, the sharks, the fish, the sea turtles, all those marine animals that you'll see diving and snorkeling, manta rays, octopus.
Awesome.
Squid. Etc.
Thanks. Okay, so for those of you that have not yet registered, we're going to touch base quickly on how it works. And then after that, we will finish answering some of your questions. So the first thing to know is how to register. And you do that simply by accessing our website. There's a button in the top right-hand corner of every page that says Enroll Now. You will pay just the $100 application fee. And something to note is that deadline for our regular season application fee of $100 ends March 1st. After March 1st, we enter our late season application fee, which is $200. And that's the only cost that will change to you as far as the prices of the programs or that application fee is that deadline of March 1st coming right up around the corner. So make sure to get your application in before then. Deadlines and availabilities, that's the only deadline we have coming up as far as registration. And then, of course, if you're looking to sign up in June or July, it may be difficult to get on a flight. But other than that, it's just based on space available in our programs, which you can actually see on our website. You'll be able to see them color-coded every session on the program page, whether it's limited, very limited, or sold out. And that means 3 to 5 spots left or 1 to 2 spots left, and then sold out. So you can check out the website for the session you're most interested in. Once you register, you'll receive an automated email just to let you know that you're in the system, and then you'll actually hear from one of our personal travel advisors. And this next slide is a picture of a few of them. They work out of our main office in Ohio. They're fabulous. They're going to be your new best friends. We've got a flight slide next. But the personal travel advisors will actually help you arrange your domestic travel. They'll give you information about your medical forms and packing lists or any of the nitty-gritty details about your programs that you need to know. You will be able to go to your personal travel advisor all the way up to your departure date. We had a lot of questions about flights, and this is something that a lot of people have questions about in general. Flight costs can actually be found on our website. If you go under our programs and you see the travel information button, you can find all of the flights for our countries as well as flights connecting countries. If you're going to be flying, for example, from Fiji to Australia or inter-Asia or inter-Latin America, you can find information about those flights. Students are required to fly on our group chaperone flights for all countries, with one exception, and that's the United States. So domestically, if they're flying to Arizona, New Orleans, or DC. They'll arrange their own airfare. But other than that, students are required to fly with our group chaperones for a lot of reasons. And that is mainly, it just gives us a lot more control over the safety of our groups. We prefer to have students with our chaperones at all times. In the past, many, many years ago, we've actually had students whose flights were, the flight path was changed by the airline in flight, or that was canceled. They missed the first few days of their program. They ended up in Nicaragua or Japan, and we don't have staff there in order to help those students get where they need to go. And just for the safety and the risk factor in that respect, we do require now students to fly with our group chaperone. For countries in Latin America, Costa Rica and Peru specifically, families are able to book their own flights as long as they're booked onto that group flight, and we can provide the flight numbers for you. But for all programs in Southeast Asia and the South Pacific, as well as Africa and India, students must fly on our group flights booked by Rustic Pathways. I mentioned our wonderful PTAs. A lot of you have already interacted with them, and again, they're going to be your best help throughout the programs and throughout the duration of the spring leading up to your program departure. And then last slide is the world is calling. So we have opened the floor. Again, thank you so much for everyone joining us this evening, and we have plenty of time for you if you're going to stick around and ask as many questions as you'd like. Hopefully we can get through most of them this evening. And actually, Emily, one thing that I know that personal travel advisors can help students with is to kind of get an idea of how much spending money they'll need on these programs. Every program is going to be a little bit different as far as how much to bring, how many opportunities they're going to have to spend money. And it also really does come down to personality. If you're looking to spend a lot on souvenirs and bring something back for you and every single one of your 97 cousins, or if you want to just kind of buy a couple personal things along the way. But Emily, can you give a sort of brief overview of maybe how much students typically bring to Australia and Fiji?
Yeah, absolutely. So since Australia and Fiji are very, very prone to having a lot of adventure activities available, I would just find out via your personal travel advisor which optional activities are available. Also, that information is on the frequently asked questions section of that program webpage. So what I recommend doing is going through the optional activities available on your program or programs, adding that amount up, and adding about $150 for spending money in addition to those optional activities you wish to participate in. So the $150 per week would be spent on personal snacks, a phone card, and souvenirs, essentially.
And what is the outlet for Fiji and Australia? Do students need to bring a converter?
Yes, it has two prongs, and the tops of the two prongs are pointed in towards each other. The bottom two face out against each other. So it looks like ours, only the prongs are a little bit diagonal. So you'll definitely need an adapter. I recommend getting a universal adapter for all those, world travelers out there or beginning world travelers. Brookstone and Samsonite and a lot of other companies will make a universal adapter, and you can just slide the different fittings into the back piece. And depending on what country you go to, you can just grab that part of the adapter and slide it in, and off you go.
Actually, we've had a lot of questions about cell phones and technology. And so for our company in general, we encourage students to be as disconnected as possible and as immersed into their programs as possible. Students are allowed to bring their phones, especially for departure and arrival days, so they can reconnect with their families. They can bring their phones to use as a musical device or to take pictures, but we prefer to recommend that the students actually bring a camera to take pictures. There's definitely a lot of opportunities to take pictures in both these countries. They're beautiful, beautiful places. So definitely bring a camera. But as far as use of your phones on the program, it's going to depend on the program. There's going to be very specific times when students are allowed to use their phones and to connect to the internet. And would you mind talking a little bit about where and when Wi-Fi is available?
Yeah, definitely. So on both programs, we guarantee students to have Wi-Fi um, once each week. So in Fiji, it's when you're going to visit a town, whether that's Suva on our marine service and adventure or Nandi on pretty much all of our other programs. There's time where you can go shopping, but there's also an internet cafe in town, so you can choose, to either shop, hop on Skype, video call your parents. There isn't a time where there's really Wi-Fi available in Fiji, rather than just the internet cafe time that they get once a week. And then in Australia, Wi-Fi is more readily available at, different restaurants, different stores, different businesses, different, even whole cities have unlimited Wi-Fi in Australia. It's, really a progressive sort of place. So it's definitely widespread and available more so in Australia.
Yep, and we definitely recommend bringing laptops or even iPads. Some students do bring their iPads for entertainment on the plane down. That's okay, but as far as use during the programs, laptops are definitely not necessary. Any of the internet cafes are going to have computers that the students can use while they're on the online. Just to touch base on how often they'll be in touch with families a little bit more. First of all programs worldwide, parents will get an email as soon as the students have landed safely and are en route to their accommodations or their activities. They will hear right away as soon as we know that they've all landed safely. So that's one thing not to be worried about. You will be contacted by us to let you know that they have arrived. And we also have a 24-hour emergency hotline. It runs 656 days a year, 65 days a year. Every day of the year it runs, and it's open 24 hours. So when your student is traveling with us, even if it's just that they're on the plane and you want to get a message out to them that something has taken place here, you can call our emergency hotline. You're going to reach somebody domestically, and they can actually patch you in or take your question and get in touch with somebody in country and get you in touch with your student. Vice versa, the other way around, if there's an emergency or something happens, even if it's not an emergency, the student just isn't feeling well, we need to take them to a clinic, you will automatically be contacted and we will be in touch with you to let you know what's going on in country. We do also have a partnership, as Emily mentioned, with ISOS, something that we're really excited about. We've had the partnership now. This is our third year. If any of you are familiar with ISOS, it is a fantastic database of doctors, clinics, hospitals available around the world, and they also insure our students for wherever they're traveling around the world for emergency evacuation. So that's something to keep in mind that you will also have access to. You will actually receive in a package a little card that gives you access to this database. So you can look up up-to-date information for where your students are going to be any given day during the itinerary. So that's an awesome resource that you'll have access to. Emily, is there laundry facilities in most of the programs in Australia and Fiji? Will they have the chance to do laundry, especially in the Aboriginal program?
Yeah, so any of our 2-week programs, students are guaranteed to be able to do laundry. Not not true of our 1-week programs. So the only 1-week program or 9-day program that we offer laundry on is our Uaru and Australia Zoo program because they have volunteer uniforms that get kangaroo poo on them and they need to get washed every day. So other than that, only 17-day, 2-week programs.
Awesome. Thank you. We had a question about a phone card. I think we mentioned phone cards. They're probably not that common in the United States, but phone cards are basically, it gives you credit on a payphone. So you can go to any of these internet cafes, and if you don't want to use the computers, if you'd rather call home, you can actually buy a little phone that gives you a certain number of minutes, buy a little card that gives you a certain number of minutes on the phone. So you don't actually have to bring your cell phone, which actually will most likely have massive roaming charges. Great. Do we have any other questions specifically about programs? For Emily, for the diving programs, do they need a PADI certification? Or for the
You
minke
don't
whale?
you don't need a PADI certification to participate in the program. You need PADI certification to participate in the 12 dives that are included in the program on the Great Barrier Reef. That being said, all of the interaction with minke whales is done via snorkeling. But the students who do not have PADI certification cannot participate in the 12 dives.
Okay, so
So
they
it's
can do
recommended.
opening dives.
It's recommended, but not required. We do recommend students to get their PADI certification if possible before they participate in the program. Otherwise, they'll be doing snorkeling only.
Great. And Em, you've done this flight many, many, many times. In fact, you just did it recently. How
Yep.
long is the flight to both Australia and Fiji, and what is the time difference?
Great question. So Fiji is an 11-hour flight from LA, and it's 10 hours back because you're flying in the direction the world turns on the return flight. Same with Australia. The flight to Australia is 14 and a half hours and 13 and a half hours on the way back. In Australia right now, it is 1:42 on Wednesday. In New Zealand and Fiji, it's 3:42 p.m. on Wednesday.
Yep, so you skip forward. Actually, I believe when I flew back from Australia, I think I landed about an hour after I left. It was about a 14-hour flight, but I think I left at 3 p.m. and landed at 4 p.m. on the same day, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Mhm.
Get a lot of time back flying back to the States. Great question. Great question. We have a question about luggage. This is definitely something that stumps a lot of first-time travelers. They want to bring everything with them. They want to bring a different outfit for every day, and they're not sure what type of weather they're going to encounter. So what type of luggage do you recommend, especially if they're doing one of our traveling programs, Em?
Well, not just first-time travelers, I still do the same, so it's totally okay if you're that type of traveler. And I recommend a medium to large duffel, preferably one with wheels. So you have that option, if it is convenient to wheel it, that's great. If it's not, you can always grab it by those two side handles and carry it like a bag as well. So definitely medium to large, depending on your packing capacity. But wheeling duffel would be the good way to go for those programs.
For Australia, I would say, and would you say maybe some of our more rustic programs, the rural programs like Highlands and Islands, that maybe being able to carry it on your back is suggested?
That could work as well, but I definitely, as long as you can lift it off the ground a little bit easier than a giant wheeling suitcase,
Yeah.
would be preferable. Either way.
Sometimes it's not paved, and I know students have a hard time sometimes when it's real like muddy or dirt paths. As long as you guys can carry it on your own, that's what I'd recommend. If you need your parents to help carry your suitcases to the airport, you might have packed too much. All right. Em, did you touch base on how many dives were included in the Seven Wonders trip?
The dives on the Seven Wonders trip aren't included. They're an additional cost of $70 for the first dive, I believe, and about $45 for the second dive. Um, and the students can dive if they're certified or not on the Seven Wonders program. So there's two optional dives, and you can do one or two or neither. And you can always snorkel for free.
Great. So it looks like we have some students that are joining us from outside the United States. And for those students, we do not have hub airports outside of the United States. So our hub airports are only in the US. And for the South Pacific, all programs leave from California. So you will arrange your own domestic travel to California. We have an airport coordinator that's there to help all the students get to where they need to be. They remain on the outside of security, and they'll have all of your arrival information. And then we'll have group chaperones that will take you through security, fly you on down to your country, and then take you through customs to meet your staff that are already in country.
Any other questions from anyone that we can answer for you?
Yeah, it looks like we've got some more questions about the base house and if it's safe to leave your stuff there if you're going to be traveling around during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we recommend for students to, make sure they put all of their stuff together and not to just sort of leave, their belongings, in a general area just to sort of keep them compact. No one's going to go into those places. No one's going to take anything. Students have misplaced items with each other, not by any means people taking each other's stuff, but just because when you get that many people in a communal living space, stuff just gets sort of disorganized. So as long as you're keeping all of your belongings, in one compact sort of bag or area, you should be absolutely fine.
And if you're traveling with friends, you'll definitely be able to typically room with them. Is that right, Emily?
Yep, absolutely. So we guarantee that if you sign up for the same program with a friend, you're going to be able to room with them for the entirety of the program, whether that's one friend or even, two friends, a group of 3 or 4 traveling together. We'll make that happen for you. And when you do want to travel with a friend, if you're enrolling on the enrollment form, there's a special instructions section. So if you just want to write traveling with and then your friend or friends' names in that section, that makes it really easy for us to attach all of those friends together within our database and know sort of which friend groups are traveling together and to pre-plan to have you guys in the same rooms.
Great. And we have had a couple questions about the bathroom situation, especially on some of the more rustic parts of the trip. Are they always Western style toilets, Em?
Yep. Yep, they're always, flushing toilets, so there's nothing, to be alarmed with or sort of nervous about. People, our students won't have any sort of random surprises, so everything will be sort of what everyone's used to.
Yeah, a little bit different than some of the other parts of the world, especially Tanzania. Great. And boys versus girls ratio, another really popular question. If you have a question about a specific session, please do give us a call. We can look into specifically how many boys and girls are in each program. In general, as a company, Rustic Pathways does tend to attract a few more girls. A lot of people notice that in the photos. I think it's just the nature of service and teen girls. They're a little bit more service-minded, maybe a little bit more mature. I hate to say that if we have a lot of boys joining us, but we love to have we would love to have more even ratio, boys and girls. So definitely give us a call if you are interested in finding that out. But generally speaking, we're more 60-40 females, males, or 70-30 depending on the program. We did have a question about the monitoring of students, Em. And I know this varies around the world, but we obviously have a couple rules that are very strictly held around the world in any of our programs. Can you speak a little bit about how students are kept as far as genders? Girls and females and males are always sleeping in separate areas, and how are they monitored during the trip?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always have, one female and one male staff member in case any issues come up that way students are comfortable, going to a staff of the same gender with anything that they need. Students are always separated by gender during the entirety of the program for sleeping arrangements, and the bathrooms are separated as well. So they're never going to be sharing a bathroom or a bedroom with other students, and if students are wanting to hang out together, they're doing that in the common area under supervision of our staff. They're only in their rooms with the other people that live in their rooms at a bedtime. They're not ever sort of hanging out behind closed doors, and our groups are chaperoned and supervised 24/7 on all of our programs.
Great. And yes, personal travel advisors can give you help with the domestic part of the travel. They won't book the flight for you, but they will absolutely give you the best times to arrive in the airport and give you suggestions if you need to. So again, they can help you really with anything that comes up for the most part. If you need to know what they're going to eat for breakfast on Wednesday, they may not have that detail, but for the most part, they'll be able to answer anything that you can throw at them. Do you happen to know in Fiji approximately what time that they get up in the morning and how long the service is each day? Obviously, we've got a few programs out there, so it's going to vary. Kayla, actually, would you mind letting me know which program you're particularly interested in? She's looking at sun, sand, and service.
Yep, so the students have breakfast around 7 to 7:30, and at around 8 o'clock they arrive at their community service project and participate in that till about 12, then have lunch, and then from about 2 to 4:30 or 5 they'll do an afternoon activity or another community service activity in the afternoon.
Awesome, thanks, Em. And we've got a question about students traveling alone, and another really common question that we get from parents and from students. And I think they're always surprised to find out that the vast majority of our students travel on their own to these programs. We do have the occasional friends that travel together or siblings, but for the most part, a lot of these kids are choosing programs that really suit them, and they're venturing off on their own, and they're worried about making friends. And as someone who's guided quite a few of these programs, and then I worked in operations, I'm always shocked to find out that some of these kids didn't know each other before they landed, because in the time that it took them to check in for their flight and wait for their flight to arrive and then fly down, they've already made new best friends for the rest of their lives. So it's really very easy for students to make new friends on these programs, even for students that consider themselves to be a little bit more shy, or they're just not sure how this is going to happen. They are in a very foreign environment, having the adventure of a lifetime. It's very easy for students to just bond over that, and students that typically may not have noticed one another in school otherwise. They're in this environment together. They're having crazy stories, sharing crazy stories, sharing crazy adventures, eating crazy foods. Maybe not so much in Australia, but it's actually very easy for students to make friends right away. And our guides as well help the group bond and help run awesome activities from the first day that they get there, to make sure that everyone is connecting and developing a sense of self and a sense of the group. And you'd really be surprised that by day 1, day 2, they've already become a tight-knit group. It's really quite fun to watch that evolution. A great question, actually, we've had, Emily, and this is something that you'll probably be able to touch on, is a lot of people are asking about gifts to bring. So specifically for homestays, or if you're working with the Aboriginal communities, is it typical to bring some sort of gift for the family? And if so, what do you recommend?
I wouldn't say that it's typical, but I definitely think that Fiji is probably the place in the whole world that the people are so appreciative of the services we provide them. And anything, that you would like to bring for a family is more than welcome. A lot of the kids are very proud of the fact that, they go to school. They love going to school. Um, they love having, their own little notebook or stickers or pencil. School supplies are just, they go crazy for them over there. Um, Also, in Australia, sort of any type of, medical supplies, school supplies, is a great idea. Also, any sports equipment, anything that is connected to you personally. So, say you're a soccer player, if you want to bring over a soccer ball or anything that reminds them of you and your time there, with that personal connection is great as well. But it's definitely not expected of our students to do, and it's just if you like, you're definitely welcome to do that.
And do you recommend bringing some postcards or pictures of your family to share with the homestay families?
Yeah, sure, that would be great. And the homestay families are always so interested. They want to know everything about you and all of that. So that's a great idea.
Great. All right. Do we have any other questions? All right, if you wouldn't mind, before you sign out, I would love to get some feedback on whether this webinar was helpful for you. We will be reaching out to you after this presentation. And so if any of your questions did not get answered during this presentation, we will go through and make sure that we email you afterwards. You're also more than welcome. Please email us at hello@rusticpathways.com. We can answer any additional questions maybe that pop up after you've had a chance to review your notes. And you can also call us. You may get Emily or myself on the line if you haven't heard our voices enough or you just miss us. Please do give us a call. We love talking about programs. If you're interested in combining programs or adding programs, we can pretty much help you out with anything that you have come up in the meantime. So please, again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Emily, for being here with us and answering questions. And again, have a wonderful night, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much everyone for coming and for choosing the South Pacific if you're already signed up, and for thinking about the South Pacific if you aren't signed up yet. Definitely an absolutely amazing part of the world, and you're all going to fall in love with it if you haven't been here already.
Awesome. Do you happen to know the wake up and bedtime for the Highlands and Islands service immersion?
Yeah, it's all pretty much universal across the board. We try to get up and moving and eating breakfast around 7:15, and then off for the day at around 8 o'clock.
Great.
And we try to cram in as much as we can in a day, just to get as much as we can out of each and every day. We get lots of community service and lots of adventure activities packed in.
Cool. All right. We have one last question. It looks like I'd like to know if you've had any safety issues in Fiji.
In Fiji, other than, sort of minor cuts and bruises, we're definitely really well equipped to handle anything that comes our way, especially given our partnership with International SOS. We had a student that needed their appendix removed, so we were able to helicopter evacuate them from the remote island that they were on, and they were totally fine. We have really good, ties with the medical clinics and hospitals that are nearest to all of our activities. So every single staff member on every single program carries a risk management plan. And that shows them on every single activity what medical center and hospital is closest, and the phone number and address to that place. So no matter what happens, we overstaff our programs to have enough room to bring, any students who need medical attention away from the program without skipping a beat for any other students.
Yep, and it's worth mentioning that all of our staff have a minimum of first aid and CPR training, and all of our full-time staff have actually what's called a WFR, WFR. It's a Wilderness First Responder certification, and I like to describe it as basically one step below an EMT, but with an emphasis on wilderness medicine. So our full-time staff that are with these groups actually have a pretty high medical training as well, and they're able to assess most of what happens. Having your pendants taken out is extremely rare, very serious, but also very rare. So those things that happen are going to be cuts and scrapes and bruises and things of that ilk. And our staff are very well capable of assessing and taking care of those types of things. And Riley, looks like you're looking at the 16 and up program. If you turn 16 that week, you are good to go. And that looks like our last question. Thank you again for everyone for staying on this long, and we really appreciate you joining us. Hope to hear from you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.